There is a supernatural world that surrounds us. Sometimes it manifests to people like you and me. You'll hear stories about this, so much more right here on Supernatural Confrontations. I'm going to be talking about specifically Fatima 2 today. And I'll be walking through this and we'll get into it and we'll hear what Erik Von Daniken has to say about Fatima. And respectfully, I will disagree with him. He's welcome to come on the program and we can cross swords and discuss it. So we'll get into that, but first, a word from our very trusted sponsor. Folks, as we wrap up 2025, it's a good time to slow down and reflect on the year. If there's one thing we've all learned, it's that uncertainty isn't temporary. It's the world we live in now. Waiting for things to go back to normal isn't a plan, it's a gamble. For over a decade, my friends at Noble Gold Investments have helped Americans protect themselves and the people they love by diversifying their wealth with gold and silver. Look, nobody knows what 2026 will bring, but one thing is for sure. In an uncertain world, real wealth isn't digital. It's physical, it's lasting, and it's yours. So when you're sitting around the table this holiday season, surrounded by family, remember, the best gift you can give isn't under the tree. It's peace of mind. And that's what Noble Gold delivers. Peace of mind, 1 ounce at a time. Before the year ends, take one smart step toward a safer future. Visit noblegoldinvestments.com. Get your free wealth protection kit today. Once again, noblegoldinvestments.com. As we wrap up 2025, we know that uncertainty isn't temporary. It's the world we live in now. Waiting for things to go back to normal isn't a plan. It is a gamble. Folks, noblegoldinvestments.com, noblegoldinvestments.com. Before I start rolling the clip and commenting on this, I just want to say that we are looking for an entertainment lawyer. We've got all sorts of films, 10 films on the whole UFO phenomena. We'd love to get them into Netflix or Prime Video. If you know an entertainment lawyer that might be interested, if you are an entertainment lawyer, we'd love to get you on board. I don't do that. So we need a real pro. We'd love to get it on Netflix. And, I see all this other stuff there, but, we can't get the first base. And that's why we need some help. So if you can help with that, la@lamarzulli.net, la@lamarzulli.net. So let's roll this. And by the way, this at the back end of this, you're going to see members only. So this is where it pays to become a member. Thank you ahead of time. It helps keep the lights on. We do a show here every single day. So I'm always looking at stories. If you've got a story, if you want to come on, don't email me with your story unless you want to come on with a Zoom interview. And try to keep it pithy and short. I get these like 2 or 3 page things from people. And it's like, I just don't have time to read it, folks. I just don't. So anyway, let's get into this. So this is what Mr. Von Daniken is talking about Fatima. Here we go.
Long time ago, maybe 40 years ago or more, I have published a book which has not much to do with extraterrestrials. It has to do with apparitions. I indicated as Catholic that you that there are apparitions.
The Holy Mary appears, Oprah and Oprah is of a troopy.
Okay, let's stop right there. So, and this is where, here's my disclaimer. We're not disparaging what Mr. Von Daniken believes in any way. Millions and millions of billions of Catholics all over the world believe that Mary is appearing. I don't believe that. I think it's first of all, the idea of the assumption didn't happen till fairly recently. So Mary is in the book of Acts, and then she just disappears. Perhaps the Gospel of Luke, some of that information that we get probably came from Mary. But after the book of Acts, she disappears. So as the mother of our Lord, I totally get that. That's amazing. And she's blessed amongst all women. Is she appearing at Medjugorje or at Fatima? No, in my opinion. Now, that's my opinion. I'm stuck with it. You may believe that she was actually at Fatima. And that's why we're going to show some of that footage from the film that we did. We went over there. We spent a lot of time. Thank you, Francisco Carrera. If you are watching this, he was our guide in Portugal, and he really hooked us up with everything. So let's continue with what Mr. Von Daniken has to say. And again, we're not disparaging him. He believes this, and that's his prerogative. But I take a completely different viewpoint. Here we go.
The Maredita appears or how it is possible. So I went to many of the apparition places
in Europe, with Central America, whatever apparitions have been. So I know false documents about apparitions.
And one of the apparitions
I'm going to stop him right there. He says he knows all documents of apparitions. So now he's going to go into Fatima. Did he speak to Joaquin Fernandez and the other people that we spoke to in our film? And I'll get into this in just a second. But what blows the whole Fatima apparition and the story that's being told over and over and over again is the work of Fina di Armada. And this is why our film on Fatima, we have two films. One is Fatima 1, and the other one is Fatima 2, Miracle of the Sun, or Harbinger of Deception, and Strange Phenomena. So the bottom line is Fina di Armada is doing a report on influential women of the 20th century. So she goes, I'd like to interview Lucia. Lucy is one of the seers. So Lucy is 10, Francisco is 9, Jacinta is 7. So they're very young children. They're illiterate. They're shepherds. They're out there tending the sheep in a little village outside of Portugal, in the middle of nowhere, out in the country of Portugal, and they're there at Fatima, and they had this sighting, and so Fina di Armada goes in. She has access to the sanctuary at Fatima. This is where all the records are kept, and she had access to the handwritten documents from Father Fierro. Father Fierro was the parish priest. Okay. So as the witnesses are telling Father Fierro, he's writing all this down in longhand. And she has access to this, Fina di Armada. And Fina goes, oh my gosh, this is a completely different Fatima than the one that I grew up with. And, having read the books, I totally get it. It's not what everyone's been told. First of all, when this entity appears and the children ask her, where are you from? She never says heaven, she says the sky. Second of all, she communicates with them telepathically. Excuse me. That is huge. That's suspect immediately. When angels appear, they're not, speaking with people telepathically. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. He's announcing that. Seal up the words in this book, Daniel, until the time of the end. The angel is communicating. They're not, doing mind speak or telepathic communication. Sorry, not buying that for a second. Not for a second. The third thing is, when this apparition appears to the children, Lucia, Francisco, and Jacinta, it's wearing a dress which goes right below the knees. Women in Mary's time wore, full-length robes and gowns. Women in the 20th century, in 1917, when all this happened, wore dresses that touched the top of their, shoes. So what are we looking at here? Let's continue.
were completely different to all of the other apparitions. And that's the apparition of Fatima. Fatima is a little village in Portugal. Of course, Portugal is Catholic, so Fatima is Catholic too. It was in the year 1917, on the 13th of May.
So it's the 13th of May that she appears. And let me just back up here. And we get into this in Fatima 1, Harbinger of Deception. Why would God need two group of psychics to herald the apparition? And of course, the return is the straw man argument you get from believers in Fatima. Oh, the enemy caught wind of this and, created this. I mean, seriously? So the enemy got wind that supposedly Mary of the Bible was going to show up at Fatima and then announce it through a group of psychics? Not buying it. Not buying it for a stinking second. Two groups of psychics. We actually, in the film, we go there and we interview sort of the head guy at this center, where it's not the original building, but this is where it trickles down to. They moved, obviously, over the years. So it's in this fairly large building, and it's in the film. And there is, on the wall was the original handwritten document where the psychics are using an occult technique known as automatic writing, stating something wondrous is going to happen on May 13th, 1917. So why would a group of psychics state this? I mean, are you kidding me? And why would the enemy say something wondrous? Why wouldn't he say exactly the opposite? So it's a straw man argument. Oh, well, the enemy, blah, 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 blah. No, the enemy's not going to go, yay, something wondrous, something from God is going to appear. He'd be saying exactly the opposite. Don't look over here, or he wouldn't say anything at all, because he wouldn't have wind of it. It's all in the film. It's all in the film. God doesn't use psychics. Okay, he just doesn't. He just doesn't. Doesn't do it. That's a parlor trick. Automatic writing is an occult technique. Let's continue.
In the May, so 3 children, I must show there's 3 children here. 3 children, they were shepherds. They were down out in the field with their ships. So on May 13th, 1970, they saw of a sudden an apparition over a tree. And they saw the Holy Mother Virgin, the Virgin Holy Mother Mary. They went down on their knees and they adored the Holy Virgin.
See, all this is a construct. All this is what they asked the entity is, who are you? Where are you from? I'm from the sky. Never said heaven. That's the first thing. The entity gives all 3 children something to eat and drink, but only Lucia and Jacinta do both. Francisco never eats. He only drinks. So Francisco could see the apparition, but, couldn't hear her. So Jacinta dies before her 13th birthday, and now all you have is Lucia, who at 18 is cloistered into a convent, and this is where the third secret of Fatima and all this nonsense, in my humble opinion, takes place. So there they are. Let me use my cursor. That's Lucia, and that's Francisco, and that's Jacinta. These are 3 very young, illiterate children. I have actually been to that site, and I actually filmed right at that same site. It exists today where they're in front of the wall. I filmed there. It's in the first film. Let's continue.
And the Holy Virgin Mary gave them a message. The oldest of the girl, Lucia, became later, she went later, when she went into a convent, she became a nun. Now, after this apparition, the 3 children went home, of course, and they told their parents what happened. And the parents, especially the father, said, come on, forget it. You just had some light reflections. It's all not true. But the Lucia said, no, it's true. Because the Holy Virgin Mary promised me to show up again every coming month. Always at the same date, means always at the 13th of the month, and always at the same time. So that's why Fatima is different. When you have an apparition, for example, in Jura, okay, there is Holy Mary appears, but then it's gone.
And so that is true. The apparition told the kids to come back, and on the 13th of the month, the apparition appeared. So May 13th is the first time she appears. We were actually there on one of the feast days. We were there, I think, July 13th at Fatima, and what they were doing, it's all in the film. They have this huge statue of Mary, and a bunch of pallbearers are moving it from the sanctuary back into this little chapel. The crowd was electric. They went nuts. They're all waving these white handkerchiefs on the statue. And at that point, I just said, and this is the caveat that we use in both films, millions of pilgrims come to Fatima every year. Millions of Muslims encircle the Kaaba stone. Millions of Hindus worship at temples in India. Millions of Buddhists worship at their temples all throughout China. People have a right to believe what they want to believe. So we're not going to disparage anyone's belief system. We don't do that here. What we are doing as a supernatural scientist, thank you, Laura, and Bart for giving me that new nom de plume, as it were. But that's Laura said, you're a supernatural scientist. We're looking at this and we're saying this wasn't Mary, it was something else. And we believe it was a UFO event. So let's continue.
But here in Fatima, the lady promised every month at the same date, the 13th of it, I will return. So it's normal that more and more people can be the 3 children out of this place every month. The first apparition was in May.
So let me continue. I'm going to move it. This is a shot. He's showing the same pictures that we have access to. These were taken, and they have been published. That's wrong. They're in our film. These were taken by the kings. Again, the king was deposed. Portugal became a republic. But up until that time, the king's royal photographer, Joshua Benolio, took 12 pictures. What I'm going to show you, and I'm going to skip to this, is what I believe is an absolute smoking gun, because there was a disc over that apparition site, and Joshua Benoliel captured it. There are also other pictures that show an object of light, and we can't, again, if you really want to do a deep dive, streaming.lamarzulli.net, streaming.lamarzulli.net, or buy the videos, lamarzulli.com. But I'm going to show a clip of that in a little bit to our members only. So here we go. Let's see what he has to say.
The heaven was dark, and exactly of the second.
Now, right here, you can see that these pictures here, and it's kind of unclear, but what you're seeing is something is going on in the field. There's no doubt about that. Now, remember, people had never seen aerial phenomena in Portugal, 1917. In Fatima, there might have been one plane in Lisbon, maybe, but that's it. This is 1917. It's not like we have today where jetliners are going all over. It's not like that. And you can see people were obviously looking at something, and we show this in the film. And maybe I'll do a slideshow on Fatima because I have it, and it's I go through each of the expressions on the faces. I'm an amateur student of body language, so one person is like their hands are folded, they're looking in awe, and they're interpreting it as a religious phenomenon. Someone else is sort of skeptical, and they're kind of like looking at it with their, what am I looking at here? So I mean, it's all over the map. There's skepticism, there's reverence, there's awe, there's confusion. It's all over the map. And I find that really interesting. So let's continue.
The rain clouds open, and 18,000 people saw a sharp disc coming out of the cloud, turning by itself and spending different sorts of light: blue, gray, red.
This is true. And this is what people saw. And this is what we show in the film. It was not the sun coming down, moving from its place in the solar system. This was a local event. Only the people in Fatima saw it, the people who were there. 15 miles away, no one saw any of this stuff. So what happened is, let me show you what I mean. So it's been raining all day, right? It's been raining all night, all morning. Finally, the clouds part, the sun comes out. Let's just say this is the sun. But then a cloud comes in front of the sun, and that's when this disc-like object appears, and it begins to move like this over the crowd and descends on the crowd. This is what the people see. They see a disc. How do we know that? Father Fiera, the parish priest, okay, handwritten documents from people who were lettered. They were lawyers, they were doctors. I looked up and saw a dull silver disc. What's that? I looked up and saw a dull silver disc. You see the way all this stuff is couched in a religious context? And again, if you want to believe it was Mary of the Bible, more power to you. But we did the deep dive. We went to people that had access to the handwritten docs in Fatima. And this, in my opinion, was a UFO event.
Etc. Over the Geschichte, they all look up now. The umbrellas have disappeared. Astonishing up there. We call this in the Catholic Church the miracle of the sun of Fatima. The miracles, now, this disc, it took 4 minutes. It came down to the people. After 4 minutes, it took another 4 minutes. It turned the opposite way and disappeared again in the cloud. So altogether it was 8 minutes. The miracle of the sun took place for 8 minutes, and 80,000 people saw it. Of course, there were different journalists at that time. They wrote in their newspaper, it was definitely a disc which was coming down. We don't understand, but it has to do with Holy Mother Mary. So priests say, I looked it from the side. I was on a little hill. I saw a disc, a flat disc, etc.
So what I'm holding is the cover of Fatima 2. And you can see right here, there is a disc-like object that is directly over the apparition site. It's directly over the apparition site. This is the original photo from Joshua Benoliel. And it was actually looked at and studied decades afterwards by a man called Jose Machado, who basically took the glass plate and stated on the record that whatever that disc-like object that was captured in that one photograph by Joshua Benolio was not a scratch. It was not a chemical burn. It was intrinsic. It was inside the film. So, members only, buckle up, because I'm going to show you what that is. For those of you who want to become members, this is the kind of content that we show. And again, thank you all for being here. We'll be back again tomorrow with another show. Don't wait for YouTube to tell you that, there's a new show by L.A. Marzulli. We're here 7 days a week, 365. Why? Because we are living in the most unprecedented time in all of history. The UFO phenomenon is burgeoning. Wars and rumors of wars, famines, pestilence, earthquakes in diverse places, troublesome times. It's all fine. The warnings that Jesus gave us are all in play. If you think you know him, but you don't know him, then you don't know him. You believe on him who was sent and believe that Jesus rose from the dead, you will be saved. If you confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord and that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. That's it. That's it. That's all you got to do. Welcome to the kingdom. Thanks for watching. I'll be back again tomorrow.